This is Biddeford High School Graduation Standard A4.2 Systems of Equations Level 4 Notes for CP. Okay, so let's take a look at the learning target. We have two right here, an OR statement. So I can solve nonlinear systems, which we are not going to focus on now. We need a deeper knowledge of quadratics, which we will get to in A8 later in the year. So we'll focus on solving a linear programming problem. Okay, so with a little bit of practice, you will be able to do this along with these notes. So let me get prepared here. Okay, so linear programming is the process of taking various linear equations relating to some situation and finding the optimal values. Okay, so these problems are often called optimization problems, which are discussed more in depth in calculus. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to deal with equations, okay? So we could do this with linear inequalities as well if we wanted to. So in level 2 of this standard A4.2, we solve systems of equations by graphing, Cramer's rule, elimination, and substitution. Okay? In level 3, we solved 3 variable systems of equations. During this level of the standard, we are going to use the strategies we used in level 3 and level 2 to solve word problems. That's basically all we're doing. Okay, so let's take a look at this problem. So, Dan and Gabriella each improved their yards by planting daylilies and geraniums. They bought their supplies from the same store. Dan spent $131 on 14 daylilies and 1 geranium. Gabriella spent $153 on 12 daylilies and 9 geraniums. What is the cost of 1 daylily and the cost of 1 geranium? Okay, so I know a lot of people just look at this and they find it very intimidating. Lots of words, lots of information. So, first off, it's important to remember to not tackle the problem all at once. Instead, break it down into smaller more manageable parts. Okay, so first, let's define our variables. Okay, so for this situation here, we are dealing with daylilies and geraniums. Okay, so what is the cost of 1 daylily and the cost of 1 geranium? So let's say D will represent daylilies. And G will represent geraniums. Okay, so let's make an equation for Dan up here. Okay, so let me change color. So we know when Dan bought 14 daylilies and 1 geranium, the total cost was $131. So I'll write that right here. Equals 131. Okay, so the number of daylilies plus the number of geraniums cost $131. Okay, but this won't be my equation right here. Okay, we need to scale both our variables. Okay, so Dan spent $131 on 14 daylilies. So I'll multiply this D by 14. Okay, and 1 geranium. So I'll put a 1 there. Again, you don't have to put the 1 there if you don't want to. Okay, so now let's create an equation for Gabriella. Okay, so she spent $153. Okay, on daylilies and geraniums. But how many? Okay, if we look up here, 12 daylilies and 9 geraniums. Okay, so now I have an equation for Dan and I have an equation for Gabriella. So going back to level 2 of the standard, I have a 2-variable system, 2 equations, 2 variables. I know that using either Cramer's rule, graphing, substitution, or elimination, I can solve for D and G. Okay? So I'm going to do that. So pause the video if you need more time. I'll erase this, but once I scroll down, I'll rewrite it for us. So I have 131, 14D plus G, and 153 and 12D plus 9G. Okay, so again, we could use one of our 4 methods. I will solve this using elimination. So by looking at my variables D and G, looks like I can scale this top equation, Dan's equation, by -9, and my G's will cancel. So I'll do that. So I'll multiply this by -9. So when I bring that down, I have 9 times 14, or -9 times 14, is a negative 126D minus 9G equals -9 times 131, which is 1,179. Okay, so now I'll combine these. So I have 12 minus 126. That leaves me with negative 114D. My G's cancel. Equals 153. Oh, sorry, this should be a negative 1,179. 153 minus 1,179. So that equals negative 1,026. So Move right up here. I have negative 114D equals negative 1026. So I divide both sides by negative 114 to get the D by itself. Okay. So I get D equals 9. Okay? So what does this mean? That means that daylilies cost $9. Okay, for one daylily. Okay, so what am I going to do with that 9? Well, since I know what D is, I'm going to pick one of my two equations and plug 9 in for D. So alright, equals D here. So I'll pick this top one right here. So I have 14 times 9 plus G equals 131. Okay, so 14 times 9, that's 126, plus G equals 131. Okay, so I'll subtract 126 on both sides. That cancels, so I have G equals 5. So, let me erase this over here real quick. So, if you were given this problem and during a formative or summative, and you just wrote D equals 9 and G equals 5, you would not receive full credit. Okay? Because these are word problems, so we're looking for realistic solutions. Okay? So what I would be looking for is one daylily costs $9, while one geranium costs $5. Okay? So this is an acceptable answer. Not D equals 9 and G equals 5. Okay? Pause the video if you need more time. So let's check out this problem right here. Let me zoom out actually. So, souvenir hats, t-shirts, and jackets are sold at a rock concert. 3 hats, 2 t-shirts, and 1 jacket cost $140. 2 hats, 2 t-shirts, and 2 jackets cost $170. 1 hat, 3 t-shirts, and 2 jackets cost $180. Find the prices of the individual items. So first, I'm going to break this down into more manageable parts. Let me define some variables. So I will say H equals hats, S equals t-shirts, and J equals jackets. So let me create some equations. So this up here, we have 3 hats, 2 t-shirts, and 1 jacket cost $140. So total, I'll have equals 140. Okay, so I've got H plus S plus J. Okay, so now I need to scale all of these. So I've got 3 hats, so 3 hats, 2 t-shirts, so 2S, and 1 jacket, so 1J. So I'm done with this information right here. Okay, my next one, I have 2 hats, 2 t-shirts, and 2 jackets, cost $170. So equals 170. So I've got 2 of each. So 2H plus 2S plus 2J equals 170. Okay, so at this point, I'm done with that information. Okay, so now I have 1 hat plus 3 shirts plus 2 jackets is $180. Okay, so now if we take a step back, we have 3 equations with 3 variables. We know how to solve these because we solved a bunch of them during level 3 of our standard. Okay, so first I'm going to pick a variable. I'll say J. I want to cancel J out first. So what I'll do, I'll take this equation right here. If this were negative 2J, my J's would cancel for the second and third equation. So I'll multiply this by a negative. So I have negative 2H minus 2S minus 2J equals negative 170. Okay, so now I'll solve this. So J's cancel. H minus 2H is a negative H. 3S minus 2S is a positive S. And I have 180 minus 170, which equals 10. So this is one of my start equations. So now what I'll do, I'll use this second equation again down here. So let me rewrite this over here. I have H plus 3S plus 2J equals 180. And I'll multiply this equation right here. Again, I need to cancel out J because that's what I did for this equation. I'll multiply this by negative 2. So if I do that, I get negative 6H minus 4S minus 2J equals negative 2 times 140 is negative 280. So negative 6H plus H, so negative 5H. Negative 4S plus 3S is negative S. J's cancel, and I have negative 280 plus 180. So for that, I get negative 100. So I'll start this equation as well. So I had a 3-variable system. I broke it down into a 2-variable system. So now I can solve for a variable. So I'll take this equation and plug it in up here. So I have negative H plus S equals 10. Okay, again, these are my 2 start equations. Now I'm going to combine them. So automatically my S's cancel. I have negative 5H minus H. That would be negative 6H. And negative 100 plus 10 is negative 90. So if I divide by negative 6 on both sides, I get H equals 15. Okay, so how about I go right up here. So I'm going to take this equation right here, this negative H plus S equals 10. So instead of H, I'll plug in 15. So I have negative 15 plus S equals 10. Okay, to get S by itself, I'll add the 15 over. So I have S equals 25. Okay, so now I've solved for H, I've solved for S. I'll go back to one of my original equations and I'll solve for J. So I'll pick this equation right here. Actually, let me change colors. That could get a little confusing. Okay, so I have 15 plus 3 times 25. Again, just plugged in my 25 for S over here into there. Plus 2J equals 180. Okay, so I have 15 plus 3 times 25 is 75. Okay, so I have 90 plus 2J equals 180. So hopefully when you do this problem, by the way, your information is a little more organized than mine is currently. I apologize for this. Okay, so I'll subtract 90 on both sides. So I have 2J equals 180 minus 90 is 90. Divide by 2, so J equals 45. Okay, so I have H equals 15, S equals 25, and J equals 45. Okay, again, is this an acceptable answer? No, it's not. Okay, so pause the video if you need more time. So hats cost $15. Shirts were $25. And jackets cost $45. Okay, so some important things to remember: just organize your information. Don't tackle this problem at once. Okay, label your variables, create some equations, and then solve.